I really find that to have a successful therapy session, but also to see progress, we need the child or the client to be prepared to participate. We need a prepared adult, which could be us or the parent, and a prepared environment, like setting up the environment in the right way to foster that communication or foster the skills that we're trying to build.
Hey there, and welcome to the Speechy Side Up podcast. My name is Vanita Litvack, and I am so grateful you're here. I'm an ASHA certified speech language pathologist, author, and augmentative and alternative communication consultant who is obsessed with helping SLPs like you stop reinventing the wheel and connect with other SLPs in the trenches. Have you ever wondered how other SLPs seem to be doing it all with ease? Well, around here, you'll get to hear firsthand how SLPs are really getting things done while keeping evidence-based practice and self-care in mind. Think of this as a coffee date with your SLP friends. Get ready to be challenged and encouraged while we learn together. Today, we're joined by Amruta. Amruta has been a speech-language pathologist for almost 20 years. She has a master's in audiology and speech-language pathology with a concentration in speech-language pathology from the University of Mumbai in India. She is ASHA certified and is also a licensed provider in the state of Texas. She believes in lifelong learning. Throughout her career, she has participated in various continuing education opportunities. This has not only helped her broaden her skill set, but has also helped her maintain her curiosity. She has been able to successfully incorporate principles of mindfulness and Montessori when working with children and adults alike. She has worked in a variety of settings, multidisciplinary clinics, public preschools and elementary schools, as well as skilled nursing facilities, home health, and teletherapy, and with clients across a wide age spectrum, 2 months to 105 years. Wow, 105 years? That's amazing.
Wow. That was my oldest client in a skilled nursing facility.
Wow, that's wild. And what did you work on with that client?
She had dementia, post-stroke dementia. Well, several strokes, but she'd been there for almost 10 years in the facility. And so I had followed her throughout her slow decline.
Okay.
But towards her last days, it was more dysphagia.
Okay. Oh, wow. That is such a story. I'm sure she found some comfort in having somebody consistently with her over those years.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And her family was great. They always came to visit. Her daughter was in the 70s herself. Her youngest daughter, I believe. But she would be there almost every day.
Oh, that's amazing. That's so important. I know it's not always possible with families, but they
Right.
have a difference.
Yep.
Amazing.
Wow. Well, Amruta, thank you so much for coming. Does that cover everything, or is there anything else that you'd like to add before we talk about incorporating mindfulness and Montessori into therapy?
No, I think you covered everything. But those are two of my really favorite topics, mindfulness and Montessori. And credit goes to my children. I really took a deep dive into those subjects after I became a mom. So I'm excited to talk about that.
Well, we're excited to learn more. So tell us a little bit about your business. You cover like many different settings and many different ages. So I would love to hear all about it.
Yes. So my business, my private practice is pediatric focused. I provide speech and feeding therapy services for children birth to 12 years. Over the years, I do have a wide variety of age ranges that I worked with, but I think that age group is really a fun age group. The littles is who I love spending time with. And what I love most about them is they're so authentic. So they're just themselves. And it's our responsibility, I think, to open up their world and bring the world to them. No, but my private practice focuses on the pediatric population. Every session, of course, is personalized. I am bilingual, so I am very mindful of providing culturally responsive services, strengths-based services, and I'm hoping through my practice to educate and explore with the parents these new connections that their children are making with their environment, with their world, and help the family as a unit.
I love that. That's amazing. And are you doing in-person teletherapy? What does that look like right now for you?
And currently, I do all my clients are in person because they're all local, but the option for teletherapy is very much open. I am licensed in Texas, so I have had parents reach out from other parts of the world, actually, from India, from Ireland, from Canada, but we haven't explored. We've only made connection, so the option is always open.
That's great. And you said that you're bilingual. Do you want to share what languages? Or
Sure. Yes. So my native language is Marathi. I am from India, and I am not up to date with the statistics, but at least 25 different languages that are spoken just in India.
Wow.
But I can fluently read, write, speak two of those, and of course, English. English happens to be one of the national languages of India. Not many people may know that. But yeah, so we speak English and Marathi, which is my native language at home, but I provide therapy services in Hindi, which is very similar to Urdu as well.
awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
Sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, why did you decide to start your own private practice? I know you mentioned a little bit about becoming a mom, but what was like the main driving factor of starting this?
Absolutely being a model for my family, for my daughters. But throughout my career, I have experienced burnout, especially I think the COVID years were when it really hit the hardest. Throughout the different seasons of my life, I tried to explore different settings and I just happened to love each one of them. But then there came a point where I know I really love what I'm doing, but I'm not enjoying it anymore. And so that was really my push, my final push to start my private practice where I love what I do, but I wanted to also enjoy doing this while I'm doing it. So that was my biggest push.
Yeah, that's awesome. I definitely can relate with loving what you do, but also experiencing like having those pros and cons to every job, not having maybe flexibility or how you want to be there for your family and stuff too. So that's
Right?
awesome.
Yeah. Do you have a full caseload right now, or is it like perfect where you want it, where you have some flexibility for your children?
I am in the growing phase. My business is just about a year old. So most of my referrals luckily for me, I think, have been through word of mouth. But right now, I'm at a good point where I have the flexibility to have time for my family, for my children. I can drop them off in the morning, pick them up in the evening, and then still pick up some clients in the evening after they come home and my husband's at home. So I think I'm at a good point right now, but I'm open for more. I also recently started some parent coaching classes, one on one, as well as group coaching. So this gives me also the flexibility, but also consistency because I can kind of work with the same families over a period of time, even if they're not quite ready for therapy yet. But at least I'm able to guide them or point them in the right direction.
That's great. Yeah. You can't see everybody, right? There's like all of these wait lists, but I think a lot of therapists are moving to that coaching model so that at least parents can get started with their kiddos.
Right. What I'm seeing with the younger ones, though, as new parents, they're reading all this information, they're reading books, they're going on the internet, they're talking to their friends, and sometimes there's information overload. And I think parents are like, is everything okay with my child? Like, are they meeting their milestones? I find that a lot of parents are so concerned about milestones. Are they speaking their first words yet? Should they be clear now? Should they be making sentences? Should they be learning this? Should they be learning that? Which is great. I mean, I appreciate definitely the parents wanting to give more opportunities for their babies. But I'm hoping with the parent coaching, not everybody may need therapy. And this also might be a good tool to where some babies are missed, some babies who may not be quite delayed, but have potential to be delayed, um, may not get missed when parents come to these enrichment classes. So that's the kind of gap that I was noticing in my community and I'm trying to fill.
Yeah, that's awesome. There is definitely information overload and this fear, especially because of social media, Instagram, TikTok. where there are accounts who do sell course products and do share those milestones and is your child meeting them, but there's such a wide range. I found I have a 3-year-old, so we're definitely like in that stage where I'm noticing friends who are concerned, but I'm like, your child is totally fine. We could do a screener if you'd like, but I can tell you that's totally normal. Your child should not be saying like S clusters. Yeah. I mean, they can. My daughter does, but it doesn't mean that it's a problem that they're not, if that makes
Correct.
sense. Yeah.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And then it's cliched, but yes, I do see a difference between girls and boys, speech language skills versus motor skills, but then not. Like I do meet girls who are motorically advanced, 2-year-olds who are jumping off on the playgrounds, and boys who are telling stories at almost 3 years old. So
Yeah. My pediatrician, I don't know if you've ever heard this before. She said that children do tend to focus on either the language part or the physical abilities, and they work on those before they focus on the others. And I was like, what? That can't be real. That has to be a myth. But I think I looked into it a little bit more and it's actually true. And I don't remember exactly why that is. If it's the child feels more comfortable with that skill, so they just go and run with it. Have you ever encountered that?
yes. And I think that's how I discovered Montessori, to be honest, because Maria Montessori, she talked about sensitive periods. And that really resonated with me. That's the sensitive periods is exactly what you're describing right now. She actually just kind of divided childhood into 4 different stages: 0 to 6 years, 6 to 12, 12 to 18, and then 18 to 24. And each period or each age range or period is sensitive to certain different skills. So in our really, really young babies, the need for movement, the need for autonomy, the need for sensory exploration, the need for being organized or finding that object permanence, finding the place where it belongs, or knowing that certain things go in certain places. So those are all developmentally already happening in our child. So when we try to look at like these blanket milestones, we may miss these little nuances that the child is having, which I found that Maria Montessori really, really described so well in her books or papers over 100 years ago. And everything's child-led, child-focused. We've had those children who we go with a plan in mind in the session. I might go with my therapy bag, but I don't even get a chance to open that bag because I'm just doing what the child's interested in. That day, my client's interested in jumping on the trampoline, or just playing with building blocks, or knocking off blocks, or just kicking a ball, and we roll with it. So everything's child-based, child-oriented, strengths-based, follow the child. And the mindfulness piece, it really struck me this one time when I was doing an activity with one of my clients. She was so engrossed. This little girl loved arts and crafts, little 4-year-old girl. And she was so focused. Doesn't matter what her mom was saying during the session. I was trying to bring her this list of words we were trying to practice with her. She was working on her velar sounds, but she was so focused on that craft activity that that's when it struck me like, oh my gosh, like look at her concentration. She's only 4, but isn't this what being mindful is? Like she's
Yeah.
so present in the moment. She's not worried about whatever else is going on around her. She's so present in that moment. And when she was done, she had this big smile on her face, and we drilled those words in like 5 minutes. And she was done with 100+ trials. But after she was finished with that craft activity, and that just kind of opened my eyes into like every session that I would try to find these mindful moments where you kind of have to follow the child and see what they're leaning towards and see what they're interested in, trying to pull the parent into like, yes, you may have this agenda, but really just observe your child, really focus on what your child wants or is saying or not saying.
Yeah. So in that instance where they're like very in the moment, you're observing the mindfulness. Are you saying that like you don't want to interrupt that? How do you capitalize on that to, let's say you're working on like specific targets? How do you capitalize on that mindfulness moment?
So, yes, not interrupt if the child is actually working with their hands and bodies.
Okay.
Because I found that now children, of course, with different abilities will need different times to focus also. But if they're using their bodies to get into a position or get situated in a task, I absolutely do not interrupt them. But we as an adult know when they're ready to focus because they either look or give you an indication there with their bodies or with their face that, okay, I'm ready. And
Yeah.
that's
Or
when you
they might,
jump in.
yeah. That's so interesting because typically when we are delivering therapy, you have a 30-minute session, it's back to back. You have to go in, you have your data that you need to take. But what you're saying is that what we really should be doing is not only following the child's lead, but really observing like what they are, how they're focused on that activity and not taking them out of that mindfulness moment because it's a learning opportunity for them right now. And those only happen throughout the day so many times, especially if they're in school, right? Like they have
Yes,
to the teacher, follow the schedule. But when they're given this exploration time with something new, that's a learning opportunity for them. It might not be like a speech therapy opportunity, but it's a learning opportunity nonetheless.
absolutely. And I think speech therapists are great at pivoting and
Mhm.
just taking the child's lead and making it into a meaningful session anyway. Like
Yeah.
even when I was working in the schools, I can distinctly remember this third grade child who was very sensitive, emotionally sensitive. So my session with her was after lunch. So half a day had gone by. But this child, when she came in, me having practiced some mindfulness, I'm not an expert, but having practiced some mindfulness, was able to pick up that she was really not herself that day. So I kind of let her be. She was muttering to herself. Come to find out, she had had a rough morning with her mom at drop off, and she was still stuck in that morning, hadn't said goodbye to her mom. Her mom had said, I love you. And she didn't even turn around and say, I love you back to her mom. So she was still stuck in that thought process. And half a day had gone by. And she also was receiving social skills support from a special education teacher who was more in tune with her because she was doing the training with this child. So I pulled her in. She was able to have one on one time with the child. And then we discovered this story. She was able to call mom, resolve that. And the rest of the day was great.
Oh,
So, I mean, it just goes to show that just being mindful of, hey, this child may have gone through something. It's not easy to just switch off and switch on for them either. And then we kind of talked through. So her session, we did nothing that I had planned in the session, but we did a lot nevertheless. We did problem solving. We talked about our problem. We worked on sentence structure skills while she was doing all of that. We came up with possible solutions. So we did a lot um, of therapy through those mindful moments also.
that's so enlightening and so important for SLPs to be aware of. I know it's harder if you're doing a group session, but if you do like one on one sessions, then it's really important. There was a post I saw the other day, and it talked about how when we're looking at dysregulation, it's not always right before something happens. It's not always like this antecedent moment. It can be an accumulation of a week's worth of dysregulating moments that lead to this. I've definitely seen it with
Absolutely.
my daughter, like where maybe I'm busier and I'm not as available. That whole week for her is just not great. It's not like as regulating. But do you see that with your clients too?
Absolutely. Not just with my clients, with their parents too.
Interesting.
I'm very intentional in how I'm approaching my parents because they might not be in the right place at that moment. They might be present with me, but as I'm talking to them, maybe they're not present really. Their bodies are present, but their minds are not. So I find myself pivoting each session too. Sometimes I find myself giving my parents 5 different strategies and great all these examples, but then sometimes it's like we talked a lot last week. Just continue what you're doing. Just keep it. So that the pressure on the parent is the load on the parent to deliver or provide. Hopefully, I'm lessening that burden too, or that load too, because they already have a child who has needs. And here I come as a professional and giving them more stuff to do. So I'm very mindful of that too. The mindfulness for me is important too. I'm mindful and intentional about what I'm telling, not just to my client, but to their parents too.
I love that. Nicole, I know you had some follow-up questions you were writing down.
Yeah, so I was just thinking about, I mean, you kind of answered some of the things that I was already thinking about how we can adapt a session for a child, and definitely thinking about what's happening before the therapy room, how are the parents responding, and how we can adapt ourselves. But in what different ways do you try to adapt some of these Montessori methods to help either suit the needs of your client, or if you do have like a goal for that day, you might want to try to target? What are some of those, I don't know, overall strategies that you might use or tailor?
So if you ask me about a Montessori-led approach, my most important strategy is really just observe and follow the child because I might have specific goals that I might be working on, but I am not restricted to how I am approaching those goals. I think that's where the Montessori piece comes in. For example, I may have a goal for initiating asking for assistance in a home environment, and I'm not restricted to just for my toys, but I might take it into the kitchen. I might take it into the bathroom. So we may practice that skill of initiating asking for help in various situations using various methods, not just therapy toys. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think like thinking about those daily routines, different things that we can do to help with strategies for parents. So it's not just us playing like a game, but even stuff that we can relay to the parents of this is what we did in session and how they can carry that through in their routines too, right? Would you say that most of it is like based off of our intentions as the therapist, like where we're putting our intention or our strategy, or is there, I don't know, something else that I might be missing from this of how we can kind of adapt these Montessori based methods of observing?
Well, I'm hoping I will answer your question, but I will give you some background too. Like with Montessori, when we think about Montessori, I think most people still think about the Montessori toys or the neatly placed shelves or the materials. But as I've researched and read and lived and experienced more and more, I think what you said was being intentional or me being prepared versus providing the right tool to the child. Me preparing the environment versus directly modeling to the child certain specific things. To give you an example, I was working with this child a year ago, child with autism, parents are doing a lot to provide for this child. So a simple tweak that we did in her morning routine or her routine where she was asking for very specific snack items. And she knew where those snacks were in the pantry. So she would go to the pantry, reach. If she was able to reach for them, she would reach for them, she would get them. The only time she would really ask for help is when she needed to open the cap of her yogurt pouch. So knowing that she is very independent, she would even take a stool to the pantry, not having the expectation of mom standing in front of the pantry, you need to ask me what you want first before I give it to you. But observing that, hey, this child is independently able to get what she wants. There is no need for her to ask for what she wants. There is no need for her to say give. There is no need for her to say yogurt. There is no need for her to say open. But what she did need to ask, or what she was asking, it was for help. So finding that's where the observation or the Montessori based observation is. Where is that communication need? Not even a breakdown. Where was the need? The need was her asking for help to open the yogurt pouch because that's what she really needed help with. So observing that and helping mom see that you don't keep the yogurt from her and please give it to her or let her have it. Don't make her say yogurt or give. But when she is handing the pouch to you, you can model the word open or help. So instead of modeling the word open when she's opening the pantry, modeling the word open when she needs to open the yogurt pouch. So that's where that observation and follow the child piece came in.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think that's a really great example to be able to visualize like what you're talking about when we're helping to coach these parents. Do you have any other examples of something similar to that that you might do while you're in the therapy room to open up those different opportunities for language?
You mean like in a session, within a session?
Yeah, like within a session.
So in my private practice, I am doing home-based therapy sessions. So I am able to go to the clients' houses. There have been a couple occasions where I've seen them maybe at a community location, one time at a park, one time actually in their preschool. But I was able to still use these principles in the classroom or in the area that we were working on or working in. Again, doesn't have to be with my toys or materials that I'm providing. The instance when we were at a park, we were at a bench. The child was done playing and I joined. I came in after the child was done. And when she was taking a break, ended up doing a great feeding session at the park. So the need was for her to sit at the bench at the park, open up her snacks, some sensory exploration, trying out some new foods. So again, maybe adjusting the environment and adjusting my expectations and my attitude rather than adjusting the actual materials. That's the approach I end up always using. I really find that to have a successful therapy session, but also to see progress, we need the child or the client to be prepared to participate. We need a prepared adult, which could be us or the parent, and a prepared environment, like setting up the environment in the right way to foster that communication or foster the skills that we're trying to build.
I like like a triangle. I like that visualization because I think sometimes when you have an off session, you're like, okay, what piece wasn't working very well? And oftentimes it's one of those. Like it's either the environment or the child's not ready to like learn or is dysregulated or the parent is dysregulated or
Right.
not willing to learn. So, yeah, that's a really, really good example for therapists to kind of do like a checklist. Like, where is everything at, like within this session? Because I think
Right.
often look at the client, like, is the client ready to learn? But we're not
Right.
looking at other pieces.
Right. Right. And this is so important even for carryover of skills. Oftentimes we see that the child's doing great in therapy, but then that generalization piece is missing or doesn't get carried over at home, or the parents are still struggling at home, or the teachers are still struggling in the classroom. So that's where that environment and the adult piece comes into.
Did you learn that? Or is that like something that you just kind of came up with? Because I really love that.
I think I just pulled these pieces from me being observant and just what worked, the formula, I guess, that worked for me. And then once I really, like I said, dove deeper into the mindfulness and Montessori, I had all these aha moments as I was reading through all these concepts and like, this is exactly what I'm seeing in my session. This is exactly what this means for me in my session. So it's just being, again, that lifelong learning piece. It's
Yeah.
what I learned
Yeah.
20 years ago in grad school. I am not even doing half the things I learned 20 years ago. So it's things evolve and you evolve with it.
We're always talking, I think, in parallel. But if we like actually converge the fields, you get so much more out of it for your client.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And not just with
Mhm.
occupational therapy or behavioral therapy, but like you're mentioning, Montessori based, mindfulness,
Mhm.
co-regulation, all of that. I love it. This has
Mhm.
been amazing. Thank you so much. I learned so much from you today and definitely going to take some of the things that you've described, like the triangle. Well, I made it a triangle, but you
No, but that's exactly
Our
what it is. The
checklist.
child, the parent, or the adult and the environment.
yeah, I love that. So if people
Mhm.
want to like connect with you or learn more about how you're running a private practice, where can they find you?
So my website is amrutapodarslp.com, amrutapodarslp.com. My Instagram handle is Mindful Montessori Speech Feeding. I know it's long, but those are important for me. I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn as Amruta Podar. My page on Facebook is Mindful Montessori Speech Feeding.
Amazing. Thank you so
Amazing.
much.
It's
Thank
been
you for
such a pleasure.
coming.
It's been such a pleasure talking to you both. And Benita, I mean, you're doing an amazing job. I try to listen to all of your new episodes, and I find that every episode I learn something new. Like there's this aha moment in each episode. So thank you. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thank you so much for listening and for that feedback. I'm so happy to have Nicole on now too, because especially for our business related episodes, because she is also an entrepreneur herself and has some unique perspectives that maybe haven't thought of. But yeah, that's why I love doing this because I feel like I learn something from all of our guests every single time. So you've definitely enlightened us today and inspired us to try some new things for sure.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much for listening. By the way, have you joined the SSU crew yet? By joining, you get access to the free good section on our website, plus podcast updates, special event notifications, and therapy inspiration. You can sign up at bit.ly/join SSU crew, all lowercase, or just find the link in this episode description. Also, don't forget to take a screenshot of this episode so that you can always refer back to it and share it on social media if you really love the topic. Take care and remember to always fill your speechy side cup first before you can pour into others.